Kia ora everybody, and welcome back to Civ 6. So I've spent quite a bit of time with Spain, but not just any Spain, the new Spain. So Spain was updated in the last patch, and I thought now would be a great time to provide another Civ 6 guide. So, what does Spain do? What is their job? I'm going to take you through some strategies for Spain. I'm going to tell you what they do, and how you should use them to get that sweet, sweet victory. Without any further ado, please smash the like button, and let's crack into Spain. So, as you can see here, Spain's unique ability, and this will fundamentally shape your game, is the fact that trade routes receive +3 gold, +2 faith, and +1 production. That's just a flat bonus to trade routes. Also, trade routes between multiple continents receive triple the numbers. Triple those numbers. +9, +6, +3. Respectively. Cities not on Spain's original continent also receive 25% bonus production towards their districts and a free builder when you found them. So what does this shape up to be for Spain? Well, it makes Spain, as you would expect, a colonial power. A colonial power focused on religion, trade, and potentially a domination victory, but I'll get to that a bit later in the video. Spain can also form fleets with armadas, with mercantilism instead of nationalism or mobilization, so you get them much earlier. You can build a fleet much earlier. The other thing that Spain has that is unique is, of course, its units and its tile improvements. So I can show you its tile improvement right now with this builder, and then I'll also show you some of the various other units, such as this guy over here. The Spanish Conquistador. So, what does the Spanish Conquistador do? Let's start with that. Well, it provides +5 combat strength versus anti-cavalry. It replaces the musketmen, so this makes sense. But also +10 combat strength when it's escorting a religious unit. So if this was one of my religious units, this one would have +10 combat strength. Really nice. If you take a city with a Conquistador, it converts it to Spain's majority religion, which is really handy, and overall, it's worth noting that it just does have a base higher combat strength of 3 over the musketmen, but also a slightly higher production cost. It costs an extra 10 production. But these guys are very strong mid-game units. Very strong. The Spanish Inquisitor is buffed a bit as well. It can completely remove heresy from a friendly city. So if I were to, for example, use an apostle or an inquisitor on Cartagena here, it would remove the influence of Buddhism, and it would purely be a Protestant city. Really handy. There's also some minor combat buffs to them as well, but we don't necessarily need to focus on them for that video, but it is just worth noting overall that you will be a bit of a powerhouse when it comes to managing Spain and shooting for that potentially domination victory. Let me show you the sort of absurdities with Spain's trade. So you can see at the moment here, what am I? Year 1710. And so I'm trading, of course, I'm playing on a True Earth start, so I started in Madrid on my home continent. But, thankfully, just across the ditch here, it's an entirely new continent. And then, of course, over here in my colonial cities that I've either settled, Panama but Spain, or that I've taken from the opponent, these are on other continents too. And if you have a look at the trade overview on the right here, you can see that my trade routes are really good for this stage in the game, and I don't even have all of the cultural policies that I need, which we'll touch on later in the video too. But just take a look. I mean, you can see these trade routes are netting, these are upwards of 30, 40 gold, likewise with faith. My faith is insane, and so is my gold. I'm getting about 300 per turn for both of them. Slightly over or slightly under, but you can see the benefits of Spain's trade, and particularly in trading with people from different continents, which is why I'd recommend a True Earth start for Spain, because you have immediate access to the African continent, right? Literally just across the ditch, you can see it's continent Africa, whereas if I hover over a tile here, you can see it's Europe. Likewise, the European continent, of course, stretches quite a long way, but you do have really quick access to the African continent. So, super handy in the True Earth start. That's just a little tip for the wise. But more broadly, you should find when you spawn with Spain, you probably spawn near a second continent. That is because the game favors you to do that, and it favors it through two ways. Firstly, because Spain gets benefits from reaching out to other continents, there's a slight start bias towards that. There's also a start bias towards geothermal fissures. Geothermal fissures tend to occur in areas where there's a plate boundary in real life. Now, I won't go too masters in geography on you, but what you need to know is that these tiles here are geothermal fissures, and they tend, not always, but tend to, or at least favor spawning on continental borders. Spain favors them too. And that's the way, basically, that the developers have coded into the game to try and give Spain a start bias towards spawning on the cusp of two continents, because it makes the whole civilization much, much better. Now, let's touch on the final unique element of Spain, and that is its mission. So the mission, which I'll throw up on screen now, provides +2 faith, just sort of naturally, +2 faith. And it also provides additional food and production if it's in a different continent from the capital. Very important. And then finally, also some loyalty per turn with cities with a mission next to them, not on the original continent. And that is why I'm setting up here to build a mission, because it's right next to Panama, but Spain, which is not on the original continent. So a mission next to the city, very, very strong indeed. Now that I've covered Spain broadly and what it does, let me take you through a little more deep dive into the Spanish strategy. So as I said at the start, Spain tends to favor either a religious or domination victory. Not only because of Spain's immense power in its unique unit, in its tile, and all of those trade bonuses, but because its Inquisitor is buffed, and because it gains access to armadas very quickly. You can very easily take control of the seas, like I have here. You can see I have some pretty quick armadas, 3-star frigate armadas. This one, 4 promotions. And I can just roll through other players' capitals that happen to be on the coast side. And that is one strategy that you might want to employ with Spain. It doesn't specifically take advantage of the treasure fleet, of all of those increased trade, gold, potentially science bonuses, but you can use the gold, like I did, to just build your military. Just throw out military units, build really quick fleets and armadas, and I think you'll find success in a domination victory. That's pretty simple, really. Keep your science up. Later in the game, use faith to purchase either units or scientific buildings, and then go hard with your Inquisitors and your armadas in the mid-game. And that's fundamentally key, I think, to setting up a really strong religious victory with Spain, and a domination victory with Spain, and man, it's fun. But I misspoke there for a reason, because the second victory type you could choose is a religious victory. Now, that is because, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the Spanish Inquisitor is buffed, and Spain does tend to have some pretty good holy site bonuses too. I would recommend when you play as Spain, you should focus the early game on a religion as fast as you can. When you're playing with Philip II, it should be probably astrology first, right? So in your tech tree, you want to, if I just show you here quickly, you probably want to go the astrology route first, and either, depending on your difficulty and resources, build Stonehenge or set up a really quick holy site. Because the Spanish holy sites, oh boy, I mean, these things are insane. Like, absolutely insane. And when you start being able to purchase things with faith beyond your religious units and your holy sites, you're gonna see some insane yields and some insane power as well. Anyway, I'll stop saying insane and just cover off the fact that, the Spanish religious victory is really easy to do because of your high faith output. Your high faith output, not only from your trades, you can see, if you have a look at mine, some of my cities are producing an absurd amount of faith. Madrid is producing 229 faith per turn. And that is all really thanks to all of these trade routes. I have most of them coming out of Madrid because I've focused it. I've built a couple of wonders and buildings specific to trade. And you can see that the faith output is insane. The last thing I'd like to cover off in this guide, because I think it's really important with Spain, once you've nailed down the basics of you either go for a religious or a domination victory, you focus on trade, you sprawl out and colonize the world, is policy cards and policy slots. While production won't be a huge focus for you, probably, these cards matter. These cards really, really matter. And the main strategy that I've taken for them, and that I think you'll probably find a reasonable level of success with, is to prioritize cards that either increase faith or gold income, or provide bonuses to cities on other continents. As discussed, you're probably going to sprawl the world, you're probably going to spawn in a position where you're spanned across multiple continents by default, so it makes sense. Triangular trade, colonial offices, colonial taxes come to mind. Theocracy is a great government to choose as well, because you get the 15% discount on purchases with faith and the extra strength in theological combat, if that's the way you'd like to go, plus just that natural bonus faith with governors, so that's a really strong strat. But back to the policy cards. I do recommend that you choose those ones that I mentioned, the colonial offices, accumulate faith, and then also actually worth mentioning, since Rise and Fall, Spain can further consolidate its power overseas by building the Casa de... can I butcher it? The Casa de Contratación, and increase loyalty of cities on other continents in the capitals. It's a little thing you might want to focus on, building that. But otherwise, have a look at these yields. So I've chosen my policies really carefully. I've picked triangular trade, which gives me plus 32 gold and 8 faith. The Merchant Confederation gives plus 51 gold. You can see Trade Confederation, that's international trade routes, giving me a slight science and cultural boost. And then if you have a look at some of these yields, you can see that policies like colonial taxes is going to be huge as my colonial cities grow. Likewise, the Raj is just naturally kind of good for city-state bonuses. And then if you're trading with allies, you might want to take that one as well. But you can see that policies will have a huge impact on your overall game. I'm going to unfortunately have to do some changing around with mine because I'm struggling with amenities at the moment, but that's a me problem, not a you problem. Otherwise, I think that concludes today's Civ 6 guide. Thank you so much for watching. I've spent a lot of time with Spain live on the channel, lots of playthroughs with Spain, lots of live streaming, and I've really, really enjoyed playing with this Civ. I can't stress enough how much fun it is to colonize the world, especially on a large true earth start like this, with Spain. And you can see so far, so good. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, everybody, and until next time, I'll catch you then. Bye-bye.